Welcome to the video tutorial for the Speech Assessment app for both the Early Years Practitioner and the Parent versions, brought to you by wiseoldowlslt.com. This easy assessment allows you to check a child's speech sounds and gives you an instant analysis which will let you know whether they're where they should be for their age or whether further assessment or intervention might be needed by a speech and language therapist. It's designed for children between the ages of 2.5 and 10 years old. This app is not intended to replace the expertise that can be offered by a face-to-face assessment. However, this simple test can be used to help you decide whether a referral is necessary in the first place. Another little thing to mention before we get started is that this assessment only looks at a child's speech sounds. That means how they pronounce the word. So it doesn't look at their vocabulary or whether they're speaking or not. It assumes that they do have lots of words, but maybe it's the clarity of those words that you're worried about. Perhaps they're unintelligible or unclear when they are speaking. You can get more information about guidelines for speech and language therapy referral on the website wiseoldowlslt.com or by pressing the info button on the home page of the app. So let's get started. The home page of this app allows you to view previous test results or begin a new assessment. We'll start a new assessment and go back to look at the results later. I'm going to add a new child now. If you're with the child at the time, they can choose the colour of their owl by tapping on it. The choice of male or female feeds into the report later, so it's important to give that information as well as the name and date of birth. For data protection reasons, the date of birth and name are not recorded on the report, only initials and age. Adding the date of birth simply calculates how old the child is, and this obviously changes over time. Let's start a test for Olivia. With one easy swipe, you'll start the quick screener straight away. You'll see that the word is blurred. Once the child has said the word, tap anywhere on the picture to reveal it. Let's suppose the child says pid here instead of pig. Tap on the g to mark the error. Here I'll type d, but say you knew it wasn't a g sound but you just didn't know what it was. You could just mark it as wrong by using this button here. If they missed a sound, for example dog was said as do, I would use this symbol to show that the sound was missing. We know that sometimes it's difficult to hear how a child is saying the word. So if at any point you would like to record the child, press the button at the bottom right-hand corner once, and once again to stop recording. You can play it back straight away, or listen to it later in the results section. If you make a mistake, simply tap on the sound button again to go back into the menu. Some pictures have this little arrow here. This gives a choice of word. For example, some children may say fish and some may say fishy. Of course, it's not possible to predict every word that a child might say, and so if you want to add a note at any time, you can do that here. If the child has not said the target word but said something else instead, or if they didn't know the picture, you will want to delete the word from the assessment, otherwise it will assume that the child said the word correctly. So you can just press this delete button here to blur the word again, and it will not be included in the assessment. For some pictures, there are more than one word on a picture. There are prompt questions at the bottom to help you elicit the word you're targeting. Where there is a s or sh sound, you might notice that the sound is a bit lispy or slushy. If this is the case, you can mark it as a lisp. If at any stage you want to skip ahead to any word in the assessment, for example if you're targeting a specific sound, you can do that by pressing the search button here. By the way, if you want to pause the assessment at any time, when you press the home button, you'll be given the option to pause the test to resume at a later date, to save and finish the test at the current point, or to quit the test and discard all changes. Don't worry, if you press this by mistake, you'll get the chance to change your mind. We recommend stopping at the end of the screener if the child is 3.5 or younger. If you want to continue the full test, however, simply swipe to move on. But let's assume you want to finish at the screener. When you press finish here, you'll get a little audio reward.
Yay, we did it!
Any sounds that were marked as errors in the test that the child should be able to say at their age will now come up to give you the opportunity to hear whether the child can imitate the sound in isolation. It's important you say, can you say f rather than f or f, so you know if they can make the sound itself. Once I've established whether the sound can be said in isolation, I press the Done button and I'll be taken straight into the instant summary of the child's sounds. So here's a summary of the screener test. If you would like to hear any of the recordings, you can do so by pressing the audio button next to the transcription. If you want to change the sound substitution now that you've had a chance to listen to it again, then you can change it by using the pen icon here so that you can change the sound up here. Now if we go into the sound section of the results, you'll get a quick visual overview of the sounds that the child can use. Green sounds are the sounds that the child could say correctly. Amber sounds were not used by your child but are not expected at their age. Sounds marked red were not used but should be at their age. Grey simply shows that this sound was not assessed in this particular test for this particular child. Now let's go into the report. This simple table format shows the sounds with which your child had difficulties. It will tell you the position in the word where the difficulty occurred, the sound that was used instead, an example of the error, and whether your child can say the sound in isolation. It will also show the sounds with which they had difficulty, but that are expected for their age. Because it tells you what sounds they used and what would be expected for their age, the app will then help you to make a decision as to whether you should seek further advice or whether your child is actually where they should be for their age. And if you're not sure, you can email us the results and we'll advise you once we've had a look at the summary, because it's all part of the service. wiseoldowlslt.com, bringing the wisdom of a speech and language therapist to your fingertips.